The Russian army has launched a new powerful offensive on Kharkiv. Bolshaya Novoselovk is in a cauldron. Good afternoon, dear friends. You are on the Pravdarub channel. Together we monitor the situation on the front lines daily. If you want to stay updated on the latest events, subscribe to our channel. Now let's move to the battlefront, where a lot of important news is coming in. We'll start with the southern Donetsk direction, where today the Russian armed forces launched a large-scale offensive toward Velyka Novoselovk. Sources report that the Russian army is advancing along the Dalnye line northward toward Novopol. According to certain pro-Russian mapping services, the settlement of Novodaryevka has come under the control of the Russian army. Regarding the western flank, Russian units are reportedly advancing along the Novodonetskaya line toward Velyka Novoselovk, along the Stavok River, Radinsky, and a small stream called Shaitanka. This information is noted by several mapping services, including pro-Ukrainian ones. Small advancements are reported here as well. There is also information that Russian units managed to breach the Ukrainian defense along the Shakhterskaya, Yasnaya Polyana, and Razdolnaya lines. This is evidenced by data from various mapping services, both pro-Ukrainian and neutral. Additionally, some pro-Russian sources claim that during the fighting, Russian units secured the eastern outskirts of Razdolnye and brought the first street, Sadovaya, under full control. We cannot confirm or refute this information yet, so we are not updating the map, but we keep it in mind that Russian forces might have already entered Razdolnye. If this is confirmed, Russian troops will likely do everything possible to secure the settlement and physically cut off Highway 0518, which runs between Velyka Novoselovk and the settlement of Bogatyr. If the offensive develops successfully on both the northeastern and southwestern flanks, the settlement of Novoselovk risks first operational encirclement and then complete encirclement in a cauldron. As you can see, the Russian Federation hasn't finished its actions in the Kurakhove direction, but has already started a new offensive toward Velyka Novoselovk. It appears that the Russian command senses significant problems for Ukraine in this area. There is a very high likelihood that the Ukrainian army might not cope with these attacks. Moving on, let's look at the stronghold and defensive line near the village of Uspenivka. The Russian army is expanding its control zone along the entire front line. Special attention should be paid to the settlement of Sukhye Yali, which is essentially the main defensive line that secures all settlements to the southeast. If the Russian army manages to take control of Sukhye Yali, it will lead to a complete collapse not only of the fortified area near Uspenivka, but also of Kurakhove itself. Currently, Russian aviation, artillery and drones are actively targeting Sukhye Yali. It's possible that in the near future, the Russian armed forces will launch several attacks in this direction. If we look at the number of updates since November 1st, it's evident that the Russian army has been heavily focused on this settlement, as the Ukrainian side also understands its importance. Much depends on it. Today, critical news is coming from the settlement of Dalnye. Let's start with objective control footage. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported that during combat operations, the village of Dalnye was completely cleared. This means the Russian army has completed its flanking maneuver around Kurakhove. Objective control footage and a report from the Russian Ministry of Defense confirm this with no doubts. The Russian army confidently controls this settlement. According to various cartographers, neutral and Ukrainian-aligned mappers note further advances from Dalnye toward Uspenivka. Russian units have made significant progress in this direction, reducing the distance to practically a single leap. At the moment, the distance between the forward positions of the Ukrainian armed forces near the stronghold in the area of responsibility of the 33rd Mechanized Brigade and the forward positions of the Russian army is no more than 1.5 kilometers. The next attack will directly target the stronghold itself, finalizing the formation of the Uspenivka cauldron. There is also minor progress by the Russian army in the fields. Based on objective control footage, the map has been updated. In these images, we can observe Russian armored vehicles operating along tree lines perpendicular to the Sukhye Yali River. The footage shows an armored vehicle of the Russian army moving to a firing position, from which it strikes Ukrainian forward positions. This specific point of fire from the Russian BMP, infantry fighting vehicle, has been recorded in this area. As a result of these actions, all tree lines located further north have been abandoned. Now we move on to the settlement of Kurakhove, where important updates are coming in. Objective control footage has emerged confirming the clearing of strongholds east of Kurakhove. Based on this footage, the map was updated. In the video, we can see assault actions as Russian paratroopers clear trenches one by one until Ukrainian units either surrender or completely abandon this defensive line. Comparing the map to 2 days ago, the entire area was still considered contested yesterday, whereas today it is evident that some strongholds have come under Russian control. Reports also indicate that Russian forces have entered the central part of Kurakhove. At least this is being reported by some neutral cartographers. Yesterday, footage emerged showing flags at the farthest eastern position in Kurakhove, and today there are reports and visuals from various sources confirming entry into the central part. Overall, more and more information suggests that Ukraine has begun withdrawing troops from both Kurakhove and Uspenivka. This process is slow and gradual, as Ukrainian forces must repel constant Russian attacks before moving a few hundred meters closer to safer ground. Regarding the settlement of Berezhki, reports from units of the 46th Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces indicate that Ukrainian forces have completely abandoned this settlement. Currently, there are no obstacles from the north or east between Berezhki and Sontsevka, meaning that an assault on the village of Stary Turny is imminent. If Stary Turny is captured from any direction, it will mark the final formation of a cauldron for the Ukrainian grouping in Kurakhove. The situation for the Ukrainian armed forces in this direction is dire. The question is not whether the front can be stabilized, but rather how long it will take for the inevitable retreat and gradual surrender of territory in the southern Donetsk direction. Next, we move to the settlements of Toretsk and Chasiv Yar, where the Russian army has resumed its offensive. More and more sources are reporting that the Russian army has either completed or is on the verge of completing the clearing of the Zabalki area in the southern part of Toretsk. Neutral cartographic services also note further Russian advancements in the southern part of the Zabalki district. It seems likely that within a few days, the entire Zabalki area will be fully cleared. It can already be stated that approximately 40% of Toretsk is under Russian control. As for the Toretsk agglomeration, up to 80% is under Russian control, with 20% remaining under Ukrainian control. A significant amount of important news is coming from the Seversky Donets Canal area. Increasing evidence and objective control footage indicate that Russia has established full control over the entire canal. At present, small groups of assault troops are being sent across the canal in pairs from one bank to the other. The Russian army is gradually advancing on the Ukrainian side toward the villages of Belaya Gora and Alexandra Shultin. At the same time, numerous confirmations from both sides indicate that a small bridgehead exists under Russian control near the heights west of the village of Andreyevka. However, it seems likely that the Ukrainian armed forces will soon retreat from this bridgehead. There is also information about ongoing fighting in the settlement of Chasiv Yar. Here, the Russian army is advancing, while the Ukrainian forces remain in a deeply defensive position. Progress in this area is not as dynamic as in the Donetsk direction, as both the Russian and Ukrainian armies are operating on a different scale here. Moving to the Seversk direction, there were no significant updates over the past day. Similarly, on the southern Kupiansk direction, there are no major developments, though strikes continue on Ukrainian positions. In the northern Kupiansk direction, there has been a prolonged operational pause. 3 days ago, reports emerged of the complete clearing of the northeastern part of Kupiansk. But since then, no additional objective control footage has confirmed further progress. It appears, however, that the advance is ongoing but being kept secret. A significant map update may soon be released, with large areas east of the northern Kupiansk bridgehead potentially marked as under Russian control. On the Kharkiv direction, footage from the Lipsy settlement area shows the Russian aerospace forces launching a massive missile strike, likely using Tornado, Grad, and possibly Iskander systems, or a combination of all types of missiles. The strike targeted positions and temporary deployment sites of the 22nd Separate Mechanized Brigade. Sources report that the Ukrainian armed forces suffered extremely heavy losses as a result of the raid. Consequently, the Russian army may soon launch an offensive in this area, as it appears that operational reserves have been significantly damaged. In the Kursk direction, the past day has seen no changes to the map. Isolated footage has been published showing strikes with 1,500 kilogram FAB bombs. The Russian army has halted its third counteroffensive, suggesting that the objectives of the operation may have been achieved. A regrouping is currently underway, possibly to prepare the garrison for subsequent waves. However, it remains unclear what developments will occur next. And that's all for now, dear friends.